This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. Just one day after the administration relaxed trade sanctions on China so the Chinese could purchase 4 Boeing 757 aircraft, the Chinese government responded by ordering a crackdown on the U.S. government's Voice of America radio service. The Chinese ordered another Voice of America reporter to leave the country and continued their verbal attacks on the VOA for the way it covered the pro-democracy demonstrators. Even before the VOA reporter was thrown out, the administration decision to relax trade sanctions was drawing congressional criticism, and we have more on the situation in Washington now from Linda Tyra.
The administration's waiver applies to 4 Boeing 757s held up for delivery because their navigation systems were on the State Department's munitions control list and were further blocked by the president's ban on U.S. military sales to China. But now the State Department has decided the navigation systems are not military items, claiming the action is in keeping with the president's intent not to disrupt non-military commercial trade. In an interview taped for Face the Nation, White House Chief of Staff John Sununu defended the action.
There is no technology in these planes that has not been included in commercial sales to China in the past.
The claim that the sale has no military value is disputed by one defense expert.
It has military applications. At the very least, the Chinese have the ability to use these aircraft, as they did with the aircraft they already have in their fleet, to bring, for example, troops to Beijing to crush demonstrators.
The Boeing 757s, valued at $50 million each, are part of 11 planes ordered from the Seattle-based company. Boeing, which has already sold more than 60 planes to China, is banking on the country as a major customer down the road. But congressional critics argue the waiver sends the wrong message at the wrong time. They want even tougher sanctions against Beijing.
All sales restrictions, both military and commercial, except those that would deprive the Chinese people of bread and medicine.
The hard decision that the president has, I think, made is that if we shut everything off, China then goes back into its isolated structure.
Other requests have been made for waivers, and the administration could open the door for more big-ticket sales to China on the grounds that they, too, are commercial products for the benefit of the Chinese people. The question is where to draw the line. Linda Tyra, CBS News, the White House.
Wherever the line is drawn, China needs the business and needs it badly. The crackdown on the dissidents has had a chilling impact on China's economic links to the West. And Eric Engberg now has more on that.
Foreign investment in China, once seen as this country's path to economic health, is drying up. The communist leadership is learning one lesson that didn't come from Marx. Capitalists will not do anything for $1, no matter how much propaganda is pumped out.
Now the basic situation in China is now improving, and the order is restored and the society is stable.
That sales pitch is not working. Many American business executives say that several $100 million in new plant construction has been placed on hold, and virtually no new projects are being discussed, as American companies take a hard second look at the risks of doing business in China.
Projects like this Chrysler Jeep factory in Beijing had made the U.S. the largest Western investor in China. The U.S. companies were poised for a great leap forward into even heftier spending. But executives say the imposition of martial law and the firm grip that Deng Xiaoping and his elderly backers now hold are bad news for business, because they ensure future instability as the leaders struggle for power in the post-Deng era. The foreigners who were forced to flee when the shooting started are coming back, but they are no longer bullish on China.
For those who were contemplating investments prior to martial law and the crackdown, I think they would be best advised to wait certainly for 6 months to see how things develop, and they might be prepared to wait a good deal longer than that.
The U.S. government has already halted military sales to China, and businessmen worry civilian deals may be next. They also fear China will become, like South Africa, such a pariah that their own stockholders will rebel, a prospect that further chills a business climate which seemed to glow with promise and profits before the troops moved in. Eric Engberg, CBS News, Beijing.
For a while, it looked as if it might not happen, but Argentina has a new president tonight. The swearing-in went smoothly, but the problems he faces are gargantuan. Frederick Tice reports.
Carlos Menem was sworn in as Argentina's president today. It was the first time in 61 years that two elected presidents were there for the transition. In his inaugural address, Menem called on Argentina to rise up and walk. But he also said the only way to fix a broken Argentina is with work and sacrifice.
Public employment in Argentina for a long time has served as a sort of unofficial unemployment benefit. So we have this bloated state sector with a lot of people that don't do much work.
Take the trains. It takes 100,000 employees to run the railroad.
The Argentine railways lose $2 million a day. Menem is expected to cut that deficit by firing thousands of railroad workers.
It's the kind of cleanup that will force him to turn on the same Peronist union members who voted for him. Peronist politicians claim he can pull it off.
We are all, by all I don't mean the Peronistas, I mean everybody in Argentina is fed up with this sort of decade after decade.
It's here on the Pampas that Menem hopes to rebuild Argentina. He wants to go back to selling agricultural products to fill the treasury with hard cash again. He's counting on people like Santiago Tapia, who runs a ranch on the Pampas. Like most ranchers, he voted against Menem. He still thinks Menem is a big question mark, but he's beginning to like what he hears. The fact that even ranchers like Santiago are willing to give Menem a crack at holding the reins just shows how much Menem has become the trustee for the hopes of a country devastated by inflation of more than 100% a week. In times of crisis, Argentines are quick to rally behind a leader, but they don't usually give him much time to deliver. And at least in that respect, Menem is no different from any of his predecessors. Frederick Tice, CBS News, Buenos Aires.
It was disclosed today that South African President Botha has met apparently for the first time with Nelson Mandela, the imprisoned black nationalist leader. Mandela spent 45 minutes with Botha at his Cape Town residence on Wednesday in what was described as an informal courtesy visit. And still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, the Warsaw Pact nations take a step toward greater independence from Moscow, and later an American tradition, out of fashion, but not out of business.
Now, new scientific tests prove Heart's Blockade Repellent gives your pet total protection against fleas and ticks, or your money back. Unsolicited, here's what some satisfied Blockade users have told us.
I've never seen my dog free of ticks, even though I've used expensive dips, until I used Blockade. Now I recommend it to everyone.
I've tried many brands of flea and tick products for my dog, and Heart's Blockade is by far the best product I've purchased. I will continue to use it because the product is great.
Heart's Blockade, guaranteed flea and tick protection that really works.
Introducing the Freedom Zoom 90 from Minolta. When you can't get to the picture, its 90mm lens brings the picture to you. It's the only compact zoom with 5-beam autofocus, so even subjects that aren't centered come to you in perfect focus. The easy-to-use Zoom 90, newest of the Freedom cameras.
Only from the mind of Minolta. Today's X-Lax is a good morning, guaranteed.
Good morning. Good morning.
Medical experts agree. X-Lax actually restores the level of natural fluid in your system.
Good morning.
X-Lax, the sure way back to natural regularity. Guaranteed.
Of course I killed them. I just aimed, shot, and killed those little creeps myself.
New faster killing Black Flag Ant and Roach Killer kills with an exterminator-proven ingredient.
Their kind deserve to die.
Black Flag.
The Warsaw Pact Summit ended today in Bucharest, Romania. The 6 nations issued a communique that didn't mention their differences, but did promise autonomy. Barry Peterson reports.
It was a dramatic victory for Mikhail Gorbachev, getting the squabbling members of the Warsaw Pact to sign on the bottom line. A communique declaring that member states of the Warsaw Pact have the right to decide their own policies, their own destinies. There are no universal models of socialism, said the communique. Nobody is the holder of truth. Hungary signed, as did Czechoslovakia, 2 countries that in years past saw Russian tanks rumble in when the Kremlin believed their governments were becoming too independent. Today's accord says independence is the way of the future. Of course, life is changing, said a clearly tired Gorbachev in an interview after the communique was signed. And maybe the Warsaw Pact will change as well. As for arms control and the talks on conventional weapons, Gorbachev got a boost there as well, a pledge to work for a quick deal. There was, as expected, criticism of NATO's refusal to sit down for talks on tactical nuclear weapons. NATO officials continue to say such talks must wait until after there is a treaty on conventional arms cuts. Gorbachev arrived home tonight, met by his top advisors, who now must wait and see if the dramatic proposals he made to Western Europe and the promises he extracted from Eastern Europe can be turned into treaties that will bring both sides closer together. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Moscow.
Tomorrow, President Bush begins his trip to Eastern Europe with visits to Hungary and Poland. His first stop will be Warsaw, where he'll find Poland's economy in its worst shape since World War II. Bert Quint reports.
Down on the farm in Poland, it's as picturesque as it was in the 19th century and as inefficient as 20th century communism can make it. By the time a quart of milk makes its way to a store in town, the Polish government has spent the equivalent of 20 cents on it. For consumers, that quart of milk only costs about 2 cents. Expensive enough when you only make $100 a month.
The subsidies to milk alone are as great as the whole military budget.
The subsidies are at the heart of what's wrong with Poland's economy, but eliminating subsidies would devastate wage earners. Factories would go bankrupt and uncontrolled prices would bring runaway inflation. That's why subsidies have to be removed as delicately as nitroglycerin.
Money is to buy. If you take them, the money out by raising prices or by any other measures, they really feel that they are hurt, that something is taken from them.
Despite the political earthquake here, neither Solidarity nor the government wants to take the issue of subsidies head on. But they both know something has to be done. And with the Soviet Union facing similar problems, the only way to look is west. Polls hope President Bush will bring more than greetings from the American people.
Ordinary Pole would think if a man is coming, then he certainly should not bring something, but help in solving the problems which are important to solve. Otherwise, why would he come?
But whatever Mr. Bush brings, it's not going to cure the ills of 45 years of communism. Sooner or later, the safety net of subsidies has to be pulled from under the Polish people. Bert Quint, CBS News, Warsaw.
Eastern Europe is changing in more ways than just economically, of course, and we have a look ahead at what the president will see in tonight's segment from our Washington Notebook.
The present situation in Eastern Europe is an unstable one. And that's what I think we all have to remember, is that just keeping things suppressed and not allowing for reform guarantees social explosions.
The Eastern Europe George Bush will visit tomorrow is rife with change. Barbed wire fences being dismantled along the border of Austria and Hungary. Soviet tanks pulling out of Poland. Thousands of Hungarians expressing political freedom. Poles voting in an election that brings the Solidarity Union into the national government. George Bush is treading unknown waters as he looks for ways to encourage these fresh shoots of freedom.
We want to help these countries toward an alternative future that is whole and free.
That means economic aid for those Eastern Bloc countries who pursue genuine reform. To George Bush, that does not mean the United States wants to interfere in their affairs. But to the surprise of no one, Mikhail Gorbachev didn't see it that way this week. The states of Europe belong to different social systems, he warned. Any interference in internal affairs is inadmissible.
What he's really saying is that, yes, I want some reform for Eastern European and Soviet reasons, but I don't want the reform to move in the directions I think it's inevitable that reform is going to move. So I can understand his being unhappy about it. That's one of the problems he should have known he was going to have to face the minute the word perestroika ever crossed his lips.
In Poland, the first stop on Mr. Bush's tour, where last month's election forced the communist leaders to include the Solidarity Union in the government, things are moving at lightning speed. But in Washington, there is worry that if things in Poland move too quickly, the Soviets might respond as the Chinese did to the demonstrators in Tiananmen Square.
We have to remember that in Eastern Europe, all of these regimes have had their Tiananmen squares before. They've gone ahead and shot at protesters. So they've realized, I would hope they've realized, that if you simply shoot at your people, what you do is incur their hatred.
So these are tricky times for the president's policymakers. Move too slowly and you encourage the entrenched Marxist leadership to resist change. Move too quickly and there's the risk of revolution. But on one thing there is agreement. The people of Eastern Europe cannot be denied for long the future they are carving out for themselves.
In the last analysis, if there's going to be a productive relationship between East and West, what those two countries are now trying to accomplish is absolutely essential to guaranteeing the end of the division of Europe over time.
And all but overshadowed by the president's swing through Eastern Europe is the official reason for the president's trip, the economic summit in Paris. We'll have more on that when we come back.
There's an enemy in your car's engine, friction. That's why you need the special quality of Pennzoil motor oil. Pennzoil exceeds the API's highest standards for maximum protection. Conquer the enemy friction with the world-class protection of Pennzoil.
Why is there a block party on Bellows Drive?
There really are winners? Oh, come on, we're having a party.
Bernie Bonet just won big money from Publishers Clearinghouse.
Totally, completely speechless. I finally know somebody who won one. And somebody really does win.
Now Publishers Clearinghouse wants you to win $10 million. Watch your mail for the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes and send it in right away. On August 3rd, you could be a millionaire.
Isn't that nice to see the good guys win once in a while?
Dentists warn the #1 dental problem isn't cavities, it isn't tartar, it's plaque. And most people just don't brush well enough to get enough plaque off their teeth. That's why there's Plaques, the dental rinse specifically designed to remove plaque.
All brand, part of your health kick? Yeah. Helps ensure I get enough fiber.
Each morning, Tracy Reed takes out some fiber insurance with Kellogg's All Bran, concentrated fiber that can help her meet the National Cancer Institute's guidelines for a high-fiber, low-fat diet. A diet some studies suggest may reduce the risks of certain forms of cancer.
Oh, you're crazy to worry about stuff like that.
And I'd be crazy not to.
Kellogg's All Bran. Make it your daily fiber policy.
The summit of the 7 major industrial democracies in France this coming week will be their 15th annual meeting, but this year there'll be a new focus. And White House correspondent Wyatt Andrews reports.
President Bush goes to Paris next Thursday for what they will call the Economic Summit, but this one will have a completely different twist. The leaders of the free world this time won't just discuss interest rates and third world debt. The leaders of the free world will discuss the endangered world. What to do about Earth's worsening environment.
And let Paris then be known as the summit which accepted the environmental challenge.
In that challenge, President Bush will ask the industrial nations to consider joint action in several areas: protection of the oceans, deforestation, oil spills, and the key worldwide issue, global warming. How to get the world to reduce polluted, warming gases like carbon dioxide. Just that discussion itself will make this summit unique.
It's now clear that everything we do potentially affects everybody else, and that's going to require a reconfiguration, I think, of our economic development policies, our foreign policies, and certainly of our environmental policies.
President Bush's dilemma is that the United States has so much carbon dioxide pollution, it will be hard to preach the gospel of global reduction.
The United States has not yet gotten its act together on reducing our own energy-caused CO2 emissions. And until we do that, I'm afraid we're condemned either to be a follower or to content ourselves with rhetoric as opposed to action on this issue.
Asking the world to clean itself up when your own country is a major polluter is not a new role for the president. It was George Bush, after all, who proclaimed himself an environmentalist after serving for 8 years in an administration not known for protecting the environment. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, the White House.
At the Wimbledon tennis tournament today, Boris Becker beat Ivan Lendl to face Stefan Edberg tomorrow for the men's title. Rain forced postponement until tomorrow of the women's final between Martina Navratilova and Steffi Graf.
without cholesterol. Give up the best things in life. What's left?
New Miracle Whip cholesterol-free dressing. Now you get all the taste of regular Miracle Whip and absolutely no cholesterol.
I do?
New Miracle Whip cholesterol-free. Now the best things in life are cholesterol-free.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And now see the light. Miracle Whip Light's cholesterol-free.
Just this much Cortaid heals more kinds of itches and rashes than all of these. Because Cortaid has a clinically proven healing medicine they don't have. That's why Cortaid is the Itch Aid.
Feel your oats with Post Oat Flakes. Feel your oats with Post Oat Flakes. Golden toasted flakes with whole grain oat nutrition and a crunchy oat taste. Feel your oats with Post Oat Flakes.
Some heart problems are difficult to detect. But this machine is making a difference. It lets doctors see inside even the littlest hearts to provide the treatment that saves lives. This kind of innovation is typical of Siemens, where our 23 coast-to-coast research and development centers for electronics and electrical engineering are helping to take steps toward a better tomorrow. We are Siemens.
The Army said today it has temporarily grounded about 3,400 Huey helicopters. The action taken so technicians can check for a defective part that could cause the choppers to go out of control. Foreign countries that have Huey helicopters have also been advised of the problem. Cuban Americans are protesting a decision by the Bush administration to expel Orlando Bosch, a man that they look to as a symbol of anti-Castro resistance. His case is now in federal court and a decision is due next week. Doug Tennell in Miami has that.
Are you planning to try again to assassinate Fidel Castro?
Until the end, we will keep trying.
To the U.S. Justice Department, that makes Orlando Bosch Avila, pediatrician and stateless person, an international terrorist. But to many in Miami's Cuban community, that makes Bosch an international hero. Ever since the Justice Department refused Bosch's request for asylum, Miami's Little Havana district has been reeling, with ambulances carrying off protesting hunger strikers, with shops and businesses closed down in protest, and with angry arguments refuting the government's claim that at the age of 62, Orlando Bosch is still a terrorist.
This is a lie. This is a lie. He's a patriot. The real terrorist is Castro.
The U.S. government says it has evidence linking Bosch with violent attempts to overthrow Castro dating back to 1961. Bosch is so widely revered here that the city of Miami once declared an Orlando Bosch Day. And when Bosch's diabetic son William began refusing food in protest, influential visitors to the hunger strikers' tent included the president's son, Jeb Bush.
I came out of concern for the health of Mr. Bosch.
But Orlando Bosch's supporters here in Little Havana insist that it's much more than just a deportation order. They say that the Bosch case is just a small part of a much larger power play between Washington and Havana.
Castro is pressuring this country. This country is trying to stabilize some kind of relations with Cuba at this moment, and Cuba is using this to pressure this country because the one person that Cuba wants is my father.
They have been praying for Orlando Bosch ever since he arrived back in Miami last year. He has written a letter to the U.S. government denouncing violence once and for all, but a federal judge is to rule on Bosch's deportation next week. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Miami.
You've suffered through all kinds of diets and regimens, but if you don't get enough protein when you're dieting to lose fat, you might lose muscle. Protein can help you keep muscle while you lose fat, and Special K has the highest level of dietary protein available in a cereal. So one reason for including the under 200 calories Special K breakfast in a balanced diet is rather obvious. Special K. Keep the muscle, lose the fat.
Freedom's the one. If you've got dental work, you've got 3 great reasons to chew Freedent gum. You know Freedent won't stick to your dental work, and Freedent freshens your breath. But maybe you didn't know that Freedent moistens your mouth. So if you hate a dry mouth like I do, to Freedent.
Freedent's the one that took the stick out of gum, and Freedent moistens your mouth. Yeah, moistens your mouth and freshens your breath while you chew.
Non-stick Freedent moistens your mouth and freshens your breath.
Lots of long hours and hard days wrapped up in this one. The Pontiac Transport SE. Took it all the way from the design studio to reality. You factor it all in. Safety, comfort, performance. Then make sure it ends up beautiful. You know, I think we did it.
GM has been recognized for design excellence by the Industrial Designer Society of America more than any other U.S. company.
We're delighted to report that first film has arrived of an unusual wedding in Switzerland. Two couples took the plunge from an airplane. We join the service in progress now as a priest unites them in matrimony in midair. After the exchange of vows, the newlyweds and their 70 guests open their parachutes and return to Earth. No word yet on what they plan for the honeymoon. Finally tonight, something just as odd in its own way in an age of styling salons, an old-style barber shop. Remember barbershops? Well, it turns out there's still at least one, and Aaron Hayes found it.
You know the sounds of the hair salon. Modern, busy, and guys in the midst of it all getting haircuts, styles, perms. It wasn't always like this. There once was a quieter, simpler way. Sal and Vin's barbershop has been here like this since 1952, virtually unchanged. They've seen other barbers hang up their scissors, give in to the new wave of hairstyling, but not at Sal and Vin's.
The Yankees just finally started winning.
Yeah, they're almost the same record as the Mets now, huh?
No appointments since the day the shop opened. Customers just walk in, take a chair, nothing formal.
It's quick, and I don't like to be pampered too much.
And the best part, you won't get scalped at Sal and Vin's.
He's charging, what is it, $5, $6 a haircut? 70. Maybe went up. The other fellas can hit you anywhere from 15 to 20 bucks.
Vin, who started barbering at 19, inherited the shop from his dad. He's kept it going with many of the original barbers, like 75-year-old Henry Lee. He's been here 37 years, successfully avoiding modern haircuts.
Especially spike jobs.
You don't like those?
No, that's just a haircut that was destroyed to begin with. They couldn't fix.
And there's John, 85 years old, working steady. This is another sound of times past, kids. Now it's the sound of the future. Families come in, bring their kids. Kids grow up, bring their families. To Donna, Vin's daughter, kids are the future for Sal and Vin's.
Fathers bring their babies and sit them in the front cars and say, this is the car Daddy sat in 30 years ago.
They have no doubts the place will survive, as long as dads keep bringing their sons and grown sons stay satisfied with a simple, friendly haircut. Aaron Hayes, CBS News, Valley Stream, Long Island.
That's the news. Connie Chung will be here tomorrow. Later tonight on West 57th, the story of an Ohio doctor who allegedly performs experimental surgery on his patients without their knowledge. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News in New York. Good night.
This is CBS.
Virginia, birthplace of the American dream, leading the nation in prosperity, and in the best Virginia tradition, an extraordinary leader, Doug Wilder. Born in poverty, he worked his way through college and law school. In Korea, he earned the Bronze Star for bravery. For 16 years in the state Senate, he fought to improve education, protect our families from crime and drugs, and reduce taxes. Lieutenant Governor Doug Wilder, sharing our values, fighting to make Virginia even better. For all of us, Doug Wilder, Governor.
The Grumman F-14 Tomcat, the fighter the Navy depends on to defend its aircraft.